Good morning. Let's see if we can get this thing. Hello. Why is that a black screen? No. Camera, what are you doing? This is not what we talked about. Why? Why are you being difficult? You were working just earlier. I am not really sure. Good morning, but why? Why, Madam Camera? Why are you being a black screen that no one can see what is going on? This is not what it's supposed to be doing. Why? No. I was testing this earlier and it worked. Why? Alright, what about this one? Still nothing. What has happened? Good morning. I'm not sure what I have done wrong with my cameras. None of them appear to be working, not the backup and not the SB1, and I don't understand what is going on. What have I done wrong? Potentially be a terribly strange stream if this is continuing. Oh, I don't think this is on YouTube side. I think this is on OBS side, but why? Woohoo, we have something. I am in the wrong place, but we have something. Wait. Is this? I think you should be able to see me now. Stream lag notwithstanding. Why this one is working, I do not know, but we do not worry about that so long as this is working at the moment. Well, good morning. That was an interesting start. I don't know what I did. I was fiddling around with settings in OBS, but I was fiddling around with other settings than the video settings, so I didn't go back to check that all my video stuff was working. Good morning indeed. Let's see. You just pretend the camera is underneath the cat. Yeah, that would be clever. Hello. Technical stuff, always fun, isn't it? But yes, good morning. How are everyone? Did anyone get to see the aurora? I have been lucky enough to witness her beauty many a time before, especially when I lived in the Arctic, and she is definitely most glorious. Definitely do recommend. I didn't realize how fast they were until I saw one in person. I always thought all the footage was all sped up, but no, it can move very fast and very beautiful. When I did my bachelor's in Tromsø, which is in the Arctic, I would frequently, especially in November when it's getting really dark, I would, if there was auroras outside, I would frequently just lose the bus and just walk home with, my head just up to the sky, just enjoying the sights as I walked my way home. It was beautiful. Very, very nice. So what are you all working on today? I thought we would have a repair day today, as we were helping a friend move some heavy furniture yesterday, and my poor sweater caught on a nail that wasn't knocked in entirely, and we have this pretty big hole as a result of it, which was a little bit unfortunate. So I think that is what we are going to be repairing today. Good morning, madam. Do you want to join me? There's room for you too. Hello. You got some aurora in northern Germany Friday night? I was ecstatic. Yes. It was such a big flare. It was so much bigger than we usually get, so that it went a lot further than usual, which is amazing. I did from Nordmarka. Excellent. It's not so often they come down so far south that we can see them all the way down here, but sometimes we do get lucky. Hello, Madam Snugglesalot. I have hidden most of my microphone under my blanket, so hopefully you don't have snacks accessible. Oh, you're so cute when you're purring. Such quiet purrs. Hi. But yes, apart from hunting northern lights, what are you all working on? So for some of you it's nice morning time, so maybe you are just waking up, having a cup of tea or something else. Missed the aurora, sadly too many clouds here. I'm working on a crazy quilting project inspired by our project a few months ago. That is excellent, excellent choice. I think I shall. This hole is so big that I think I'm going to be using a little bit of patching on it as well, not just embroidery, but crazy quilting is a lot of fun. I enjoyed that quite a bit. I think maybe you can hear her. Wait, when you don't bump into the microphone, wholesale. Yeah, there's a microphone cord over there, but that is not what you want, right? It's not. Yeah, snuggle the laptop, that is. I am procrastinating working on a crochet shawl right now. Stranded fingering weight yarn is an adventure. That I can imagine, but the result will be glorious in the end. Crocheting and edging on a filet piece of an iris with tea and an eclair. Midnight on my side, yes. Always the very different time zones all over everyone. You're gonna settle down? Yes. I'm still in bed planning on some spinning after breakfast. That is an excellent plan. But yeah, like some people pointed out, this is a good excuse for me to get up on a nice Sunday morning and get the day started. We are going non-aesthetic today because it's getting quite warm, and thermocups, which I've never had one, so this is quite a luxury for me. I just call it my water bottle, which a lot of people get upset about, since they are like, no, it's a thermocup. good, but I mostly use it for cold water, and now I have ice cubes and some green mint tea in it, and it is delicious when it's warm. Nice and refreshing. Alright, madam, shall we see if we can start on some mending? Where did it go? There you are. It's a shame, it was a freshly inherited shirt too, but these things do happen, and they will keep happening, and good thing we can repair them. That sounds delicious. Yes, I love a little bit of bitter when it gets really warm, like in a nice green tea, and when you extract it like in ice cubes, it doesn't get as bitter as if you do it warm, and it's excellent in summer when it's really warm. It's very highly recommend if you don't mind things having a slight bitter twinge, but I find that actually is a little bit more refreshing than just cold water, which I also enjoy and drink a lot of. Not that we have the worst heat in my neck of the woods, it must be said. We are still quite fortunate in that regard. Just trying to rest, yeah. Some days are like that. But at least we can have some company while doing so. Yeah, I love an iced green tea with lemon especially. That is also really, really good. I like both of those choices as good summer choices. I mean, I like green tea with lemon or green tea with mint come summer or winter, but in summer I tend to take them a bit. Yeah, my basket of scraps is in the way, isn't it, of your highway, madam? I beg your pardon. I suppose I could put it down here. We are but our cat's servants, after all. I was talking too much. She moved over to her cardigan on the work table. Birch pollen treating you okay? I don't have allergies, so I don't have any issues other than sympathies for those who struggle with such things. And the general amusement that it lands on everything in its vicinity and covers everything in yellow pollen everywhere. But I am very lucky not to have allergies to such things, so I am very grateful. I see a lot of people struggle this time of year. I used to have child allergies, but they weren't, asthmas or anything like that. They were eczemas, like in the elbow and behind the knees and in my face would get all red. And I was allergic to furry friends, which is unfortunate because I love them, and insect bites and makeup. They would all cause me to break out, something horrible. And I remembered carrying in my backpack to primary school several different lotions of cortisone, so steroid creams at varying strengths that I knew how to use in case I had a breakout and needed something to help with the itching. But luckily for me, I was one of the lucky people who grew out of those. Grew out of my child allergies, so I currently don't have any as far as I'm aware, which is very, very lucky. So thank you, but I have no problem with the pollen. I just get to enjoy the sudden explosion of all the green things happening all around us. Suddenly we went from 5 to 10 degrees centigrade, so a little bit above freezing, to 20, which is nice and warm summer temperature in my books. And all the trees and all the plants and everything are just racing to get leaves first. And this is often how it happens. You don't have a gradual increase in temperature as much as, suddenly the weather just shifts and everything in nature just explodes with all of the things, with all of the green, and then it's summer and it's very fast. It's very, very interesting. It was a stark difference from when we lived in London for a short time while spouse were doing their undergraduate, and I would go all winter long waiting for winter because I was like, this is not winter. We've had a little bit of slush, rain once or twice, and that was it. So where is winter? And then it'd be spring and I'd be very confused. We used calamine lotion when I was small for allergic hives. Yeah, I had a steroid one, cortisone, which is quite common for treating that kind of things. You had that elbow eczema too? I only have a very mild pollen allergy myself, fortunately. Yeah, I have some friends who really struggle and I feel so bad for them because they're like, yeah, it's spring and it's nice and warm, but also everything is on fire and it's hard. So it's no fun. I'm really happy that I grew out of, especially being allergic to cats and fur and pets and dogs and anything with fur basically, because I always wanted to snuggle them anyway and people couldn't really stop me, so I would just break out instead and be very red and very itchy. But that's children, I suppose. I love super cold water. When pouring it turns into slush in my insulated water bottle. That does sound really nice. I would be worried about a brain freeze though, because I do tend to, when I'm thirsty, I can drink quite a lot, and if it's too cold I will get a brain freeze and I'll be in pain. But that does sound really nice this side of year when it's getting warmy. So happy I caught your live. Thank you. You are welcome. If you are, oh, you're from Moldova. Welcome. But I don't put lives on YouTube. But if you have access to our Discord, you can see when I'm trying to plan to do them. I don't want to plan them out on YouTube because I never know when I'm gonna get a migraine. So I have this kind of caveat in the thingy in the Discord where we plan our lives that I might have to cancel. But we have been lucky so far. So far it's been good. So I will put this here if you want to join us. It's a very nice little cozy community. What am I working on? I am repairing a sweater that got caught in an unfortunate accident as we were helping a friend move some large heavy furniture yesterday, and I got snagged on a nail that wasn't knocked all the way in. So far I have just covered up the tear, oops, wrong way, the tear with some contrasting thread because that was what was on a needle and I just wanted to use it up, and I thought I would cover it with a patch because it's such a big tear that I don't really want to do all the embroidery required to make that look decent. So I'm just gonna patch it up with a little bit of a patchy friend. And this linen is woven, even though this sweater is knitted, but like machine knitted, but this woven is so soft that I think it's gonna have enough stretch to accommodate that anyway. It's better than no sweater, or not using the sweater because it's torn, because it's very nice and soft. Currently live in the subtropics. We don't have seasons and I miss them so much. Yeah, that was my main thing. I mean, London did have season to a degree. In summer it was really warm because of the hot city effect, where cities get warmer than the surrounding areas because there are more concrete buildings and stuff absorbing heat. And yeah, it was strange. I have grown up with seasons and I miss them when I don't have them. It's nice to have your year split up in such a way, but I suppose that it is all about what you are used to. And that just happens to be what I'm used to, and those who grew up in subtropics probably find big seasons like that very strange. It's a nice autumn day here, and 20 degrees is really quite cold after the 40 degrees summer. Oh my goodness, I just think I would not have a good time if... Yeah, I am not I have not grown up in really warm weather. I am not built for warm weather. I try to find the shade and hide. But it's all what we're used to, isn't it? I mean, when it creeps over 30-degree here, we really struggle and try to open windows and get a through draft and try to make things move so that it isn't quite as stifling. But I'm unaccustomed to the heat. It is not what I'm used to. Good morning from Denmark as well. I will be working on a row or two of my handspun shawl in the sun this morning. I'm so grateful for the encouragement for everyone at this point. I'm so glad you are finding the community encouraging and enjoying everything. That is why I try to build it. And I mean, you are the community. You are the people making this an amazing place. I just built a thing and said, here, have a thing, and then you just ran with it. So you are really the ones making the community, not me, even though I get comments saying that I made such a nice community, and I'm like, that's all you. You are the ones who did that. Tropical seasons are wonderful in their own way. I grew up near the equator and moving to the cold was difficult. Yes, I can imagine that whenever you move to something that is very different from what you're used to, people usually have, in my experience, like a hard time adjusting because they're so used to what they consider their normal. I've had people from the Arctic Circle who are used to, you know, midnight suns, which in contrast have polar darkness, and they went south to celebrate winter solstice with their partner's family, and they were in a place further south of Norway where there's still sun during the winter solstice, and they got depressed from that. They were like, this is all wrong. Winter solstice is supposed to be a time of near complete darkness. And then you light up all the candles and all the fireplaces and the lights on the tree and everything is cozy, and that was a shock to them. Whereas when we had an exchange student from Ghana, they had to go home again because they couldn't handle the polar night, the endless darkness. Not endless darkness. You still have a brightening of the horizon for a few hours, but the sun will not come up for 2 months when you are in Tromsø, and they really struggled with that, and had to actually finish their studies and go back home because they just, you know, they were missing the sun too bad. So it's always difficult when you are in an environment that is very different from what you're used to. Same here. I live in Canada and all the buildings here are built to hold on to as much heat as possible. Yeah, I don't think they did that like consciously in places like London. It's just that we use so much concrete, and that happens to be quite a heat retaining material, and then a lot of them are also reflecting light onto the asphalt, which is also of course a black hot thing that absorbs a lot of heat. And did I bring all my sewing things and not sewing thread for doing this mending? I hadn't planned on doing this with embroidery thread. I grew up in a tropical country and have lived in all sorts of weather: subtropical, Asian summers, Dutch Central Europe desert, and I still prefer cold places with snow. That is interesting. That is really nice. It's quite impressive that you moved so many places. I have only ever tried quite few within Europe, but I think every place has its charms. I've always wanted to experience the polar night. Sounds like my kind of thing. It is all about the attitude. With all of my friends up north in the who live in the polar night, they have this, again with the Norwegian hygge type thing that became all the hype some time back. It's that kind of thinking. You make your environments cozy, and it helps that when it's getting darker, you look towards the winter solstice and you celebrate the winter solstice, and you surround yourselves with friends and candlelight and bright lights, mood lights, and like you light up your surroundings, you enjoy the sky, You look up at all the aurora borealis, which it's often the easiest to spot them during that season because again it's so dark, so even small auroras will light up quite well, which is amazing. And then after the winter solstice, of course, you can look forward to spring again because now everything is getting brighter day by day. So it's kind of a part of the attitude, a part of their lifestyle. And the people who struggle the most are the people who again aren't able to sort of get into the swing of things, the rhythm of things, and they just look forward to having light again, and they struggle with not having the light. So I find it people will always focus on getting outside or getting up by the time so that they get the light when it's there, because like from about 11 to about 1 p.m. you will have a brightening of the sky as if it is a sunrise, and then it will go dark again, it will go blue, and then it will go dark. But you still have a brightening that tells you the difference between night and day, which is lovely. And when people get that, it helps with the feeling of night and day, and often the feeling of depression too. So they always recommend that people try to maybe go outside just for a few minutes, or just look out the window. Just make sure that you get that distinction of night and day. And then of course, by contrast, when if you stay in the Arctic in summer, you get the midnight sun, which is almost equally bizarre in a very peculiar way. Because I remembered being an undergraduate student and experiencing the midnight sun for the first time, and that is again 2 months of the sun never going down. And I would go out sometimes at 2 a.m. And if you've ever been in the forest at night, it sort of has a peculiar smell. It has a peculiar, like the bird sounds are different, the air smells different. It's a different thing. And it was very fascinating to me how I could feel that it was night. The birds were singing in a way that told me it was night. The air smelled in a way that told me it was night. But it was bright sunlight. It was super, super fascinating to me as someone who hadn't grown up with that. And also, Arctic berries are super, super sweet because they grow slowly in the cold, but they have constant sunlight, so they get really sweet and delicious. Absolutely something to try if you're in the area. But yeah, they were both really fascinating in really interesting ways. Just these seasons really extremified. It's always assumed that darkness is depressing, but I've always felt more relaxed and energized in winter because night is much longer and I can feel awake. Yeah, it's all very different in how people approach it. I tend to sleep more in winter, I will admit. Like I sleep longer than I do in summer. I wake up earlier when the sun is up earlier, and I'm just trying to accept that is just kind of my seasonal clock, because I mean, capitalism and modern society tells us that we should go to bed and get up, go to work at the same time all year, but I don't really do that naturally. I just tend to naturally rest more and sleep more in winter when it's dark and have it as the resting season. It's one of the reasons I really miss winter when I've lived in places that don't have it, because I get this like go, 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 like the plants are alive all the time. And winter is this nice time to retreat, light a fire in the fireplace, snuggle up on the couch, just sort of as the nature gets covered by this winter blanket, have a rest. But again, that is what I've grown up with, so that is how I know these things. And I'm sure people growing up in different regions have very different ways of dealing with that kind of thing. But I always found it very nice to have the year cut up a bit like that into a more natural resting period, even though modern society will tell you that that is not how it works. You still need to go to work just as many hours as you do in summer, which is interesting to me since I have such a strong increase. Like I sleep at least an hour or two more despite going to bed at the same time or earlier than I do in summer. It's quite pronounced. I share that feeling, being more energized at night due to the dark. Yes, can absolutely be a thing, and it can be a thing that you look forward to and enjoy. In Tromsø, we also had these specific baked goods. Like there was a midnight sun bun that was a little like a yeast baked goods with a yellow, I think it was vanilla custard in the middle, like a sunshine bun. And then when the midnight period rolled around, they would have these polar night buns, which were I don't know what they're called in English, but they're also like a yeasted good, but often with like raspberry jam on the inside or vanilla curd again, and they would have their tops dipped in dark chocolate because it was the dark season, and they were delicious. And you would only get them those first couple of weeks, or like weeks or months of the polar night. So people looked forward to them. Again, they tried to make it so that this was something to look forward to rather than something that was depressing. And yeah, delicious, absolutely delicious buns. We would always buy a couple because it was just what you did when polar night came around. You went and bought some buns and you had a good time, and you had some tea and you talked to friends, and you made it into, it was part of your everyday thing. Oh, we have ads. I have figured out a way to see if we have ads on YouTube. Oh my goodness, I love it. Now I can see when you are getting ads, or at least some of you are getting ads, and we can skip it. Or is the timer telling me that ads will run shortly for some of you? Does that mean that ads will run in 30 seconds? Friends who are in regions who get many ads, like US and Canada, have you gotten ads already, or is it that... Well, I suppose you can't answer that if you are getting ads. Oh no, why is this always... Ads will run for some viewers. That is to tell me that... Yeah, I think that means that you just had ads. Ads inserted? Wait. YouTube, what does it mean? Does it mean that you inserted ads right now? Are we on an ad break right now? You is here and no ads right now? Okay, so maybe the countdown is until we get ads, and then we get some ads, even though I wish it would give me a bit of a timer of how long you are getting ads for, but now I lost my place in the thinking entirely. You are in the US and you don't see an ad yet? Okay, good. I'm trying to find a way to tell people that we are pausing for ads, but to do that I need to know that ads are running, so it's... I got an ad when I connected, nonsense. Interesting. But YouTube, I also want you to tell me how long I should pause for, how long I should sort of pause the ads so that people don't miss out on the content. Maybe I just need to watch the clock and count 2 minutes or so. But if you got ads, welcome back. I am trying to learn to pause the live for ads, and we just sort of hang out and talk about my inability to figure out how to post the stream for ads, because I don't know how long they run for you, and we just sort of chill out and take a break. But I think the timer that I got on my new dashboard thingy is telling me when an ad will pop up. So I get, I think, a 1 minute timer to count down to when you will get an ad, not that the countdown is the ads running, if that makes sense. We are still learning this magical thingy and process. But anyway, yes, Polar Night, it was something that we enjoyed, and I see a lot of people also enjoying the darkness, enjoying that kind of thing. And seasonal depression in the summer heat, yeah, it can be very hard in summer. At least the cold, you can, if you have some firewood or some blankets, you can solve that, but the heat is difficult to get away from, at least in Norway and Europe, where air conditions are not as common as they are in the US. We have one here actually, again, because it's so hard, and we found one used but I try to use it only when I really, really have to, because, yeah, electricity costs money. As someone who loves the forest and the sun and doesn't really like skiing, I prefer the warmer months. Yeah, it's different for everyone. I don't really like skiing either, but I like there is a restful quiet in the snow, because the snow just muffles everything, and I have an appreciation for both, or like all four, like autumn, spring, and summer, and all of them. I try to work on sort of being in the moment and just enjoying whichever season we happen to be in, because there's always something to enjoy about all of them, even if in recent years the summers can get a bit hot for general surviving, but at least here we can find some shade and try to cover things up. The buns for the light and dark seasons sound great. Going on my list of bakes good to try. Yes, they're delicious. We didn't actually bake them, it was the bakeries who made them, and you just got to go and buy and splurge on them, and they were delicious, and we would get a couple of them each year, and it's very, very nice. I kind of miss them, to be honest, now that I live further south again. Maybe I should plan to visit my friends in the north when they're getting polar nights, so that I can get myself some of the polar night buns, because they were the best. They were my favorite. And I mean, having a baked good dipped in dark chocolate like that, what's not to like? Here you have to wake up before 8:30 in summer, or you wake up after it has gotten warm. You get very groggy if you wake up after it's above 20 degrees. I will believe you on that, yeah. It's the same here, so we try to place our bedroom in a way that ideally on the northern side, so that it's the colder side of the house, and that helps some, but I mean that really depends on where you are residing. That is true for places with hot summers. When I living in Asia in summer, I got up before 7 a.m. and life is very much moved to later in the day. Yeah, you just can't do anything. I mean, you really understand siesta culture and that break in the middle of the day, because it's just too hot to do anything safely. And there's no reason we should force people to do anything unsafely if they can just move their workday a bit and be much more comfortable and much less at a chance for, heat strokes and different things. And they can be very dangerous. So we absolutely support people taking care of themselves. It is afternoon for me. I have watched ads today. We got an ad at beginning of stream only. Supposed to be after 18 minutes, but maybe I finangled so much with the camera in the beginning that it went into 18 minutes before I knew it. That wouldn't actually surprise me. But maybe they run an ad at the beginning. I'm not sure entirely how all of these things work. In summer it never goes down to 20 degrees here, even at 5-6 a.m. More like 27 at best. It's harrowing to never get any respite. I believe you. I don't know if that is the case elsewhere, but in Norway here, we classify nights when it stays above 20 centigrades all night. We classify them as tropical nights, and you sort of get them in the weather forecast. That it's going to be one of those, and maybe turn on your AC if you have it and take care of all the relatives who can't necessarily cope as well with the heat. And they will usually measure like first tropical heat day or tropical heat night of the year, and lay them out in diagrams and compare years to each other. I don't know if they're called that elsewhere. That doesn't make sense to me if you're in a tropical region and you call them tropical nights. So that is just something that we do up here. I'm not aware if other people have a similar classification, but yeah, no cool down in many European cities these days. My sleep gets better at the end of September if I'm lucky. Yeah, it can get very hot and very stifling. Again, when we lived in London, if it got above 30 degrees, they would be putting stands up at the train station where I commuted back home, and they would be delivering out water bottles to try to prevent people from having heat strokes on the train back. And it's devastating to me that it's cheaper to, you know, have all these water bottles and take care of people, and it's rather than just sort of not having people stand in these really hot, stifling, and the underground was always hotter as well because the engines run underground in these tunnels and they get no break. And I had people pass out in the morning commute and having to be taken off and given water and help. And it was because the train was so full, the underground rail was so full in the morning when I went to work, because obviously rush hour, she just kind of fell straight down because there was nowhere for her to go. She just kind of collapsed. But we got her off at the next station and got some water in her and some food, like a banana or something, anything to just get some blood sugar in her system. And it's just devastating. So, and again, you're just like in winter when I sleep more, you're supposed to go on like normal. And I would argue that the heat is worse to deal with because it's so, yeah, you can't get away from it. It can be very, very stifling. At many places, air conditioning isn't allowed by landlords. Interesting. Huh. Is that because they use more electricity? But if you pay your own electricity, I don't know. But I know they do use a lot of electricity globally, but it's also something people need for being better. But it does ship all the hot air outside, so I think I saw some calculations that were interesting in terms of our air conditions heating up the world, because they do push out, because conservation of energy, they do push out more heat outside of your house than they give you cold on the inside. But it's an interesting thing. Yes, 30 degrees does feel different worse in Norway than places like Southern Europe. I have heard people say that, and I believe them. I haven't experienced it so much myself, but yeah, I have heard people say that, and the humidity doesn't help. But it's interesting, isn't it, how different temperatures are experienced very differently depending on where you are, and especially depending on the humidity of the region you're in. Humidity really makes it very, very different. We had the same but opposite again when I lived in Tromsø as well, where if you go further inland you get colder temperatures, but it doesn't feel as cold because it's drier, so it's a very different type of cold. Whereas if it got cold in Tromsø, even if it was no more than, I think the record was -18 centigrade, which is not terribly cold on paper, like a lot of other places further inland get -30, -40 on the regular. But there was something again with all the water in the air, even if it's cold, and all the wind, because when it's so cold it's very often very windy, and the wind just chills you to your bone. The coldest, I was living there at a time when we almost broke the all-time cold record for Tromsø, and I think that was around that -16 to -18 degree region, and it was during a storm. So it was this really whipping, really chilling wind with just ice just hitting you and hurting physically, and it was super, super cold. And when I've been inlands, like here we are now, there was a period this winter where we went down to -30, and it didn't feel the same at all. It was cold, like your nose gets all frosty when you breathe, but it was, I would say that that storm in Tromsø along the coast, which was just, I think it was -16, 17, something like that, felt so much colder. The wind chill was extreme, it was insane. But here, when it was -30 this winter, it was completely still. The air was just very, very still, very dry, very different experience. Plus our houses aren't built for keeping cool, no, especially modern houses. And that is so sad, because the loss of, you know, local architecture, because local architecture was developed to deal with whatever temperature conditions, whatever weather conditions those areas would experience the most. So you look at a lot of old historical architecture, so different from the glass and concrete structures we like to build today, and they're all different because all over the world you would have different things to take into consideration, and now we do that a lot less, and that doesn't help with the weather going changing, and everything is turning into new things. Morning. We are talking weather as the good Norwegians we are. Very interesting. I know this is also British stereotype, but yeah. Tropical nights are a thing in Finland as well, probably all of Northern Europe. Yeah, it may be. In Germany it's also called tropical nights. Interesting, yeah. The heat is definitely worse to deal with, and in cities the heat can't escape, so the cool down in the night does not happen. Yeah, it's a big problem. And also the big buildings and the tall buildings reflect more light and retain more heat, and all the asphalt retains more heat, so it also absorbs more heat during the day. So yeah, it's a lot warmer in cities, in big cities, than it is where there are more green forest and other things to reflect more light, and of course be more humid to keep the heat a little bit down. It's super fascinating how much difference plants make in a city planning, cityscape type environment, and also just going a little bit out of the country or out of the city, and things start to change pretty drastically. Just here, if I go into the forest or down to the river, it's a very different experience, even if it's just 50 to 100 meters away. It's super interesting. And fascinating to me. Ice wind does sound terrible. It was an experience, to be sure. It was a very interesting, like it's an experience. I'm like, yeah, that was something that happened, and I happened to be there at the time. That was pretty interesting. Luckily they have good houses again, built with that kind of environment in mind, so more insulation. But we did get some, I think they were couch surfers, some kind of travel. It was before Airbnb was a thing, but I think they were traveling to come check out Tromsø, and they came from, I think, Korea, and they had wanted to see the northern lights, and they came during this ice chill, really cold wind storm, and they didn't have, you know, Arctic weather clothing. They came in sneakers and barely jackets, and we were just like, no, stay inside. You have nothing outside to do. You are not dressed for this weather. Please stay inside until the weather calms down. You can't see northern lights in this conditions anyway. Even here you can only have movable AC unit if you're renting, and fixed heat pump units need a permit from the facade committee in the city. Yeah, that is a problem with a lot of apartments in the city and stuff like that, isn't it? That facade things need approval. I am familiar with this, and you know, apartment buildings having laws around changing the facade without sending in an application first, which can be troublesome. Yeah, we're supposed to be up to 33 Celsius today. I think right now it's like 18 Celsius if I use the converter right. That sounds like an environment I would not thrive in personally. I'm not good with the heat. I get very, very, you know, dizzy and sluggish and all of the things. And it's funny how many places that's a stereotype. The joke here is that complaining about the weather is Canada's real national sport. Yeah, it's the same in Norway, and when I lived in the UK as well, and that was very much the same thing. I think it's every country's national sport, although ours is complaining. There are many underappreciated national sports that I feel like we should give more attention. Somehow we think other nations don't complain about the weather, but it seems most do. That is true. I mean, that is what we're seeing in the comments, isn't it? That the weather is a hot topic of debate and something we like to complain about and talk about and get to have our say about. Anyone see the northern lights lately? Been sticking my head out the door every few minutes with no luck. Oh no. I didn't see them this solar flare around. We had some other engagements, but I've seen them previously. I've seen them, especially when I lived in the Arctic. That was why we got on the topic of the Arctic, because we were talking about the northern lights there and how gorgeous they are during polar night season when it's so dark everywhere that you can see them even if they're fairly faint. They are very nice, and I do hope more people get to see them during their lifetime. In a positive way, not in a dangerous, because solar flares can also be dangerous in terms of electronics and stuff if they're too strong. And they're much faster than I thought they were. It's I always thought all the videos of people filming them were time lapses, but with a good camera that can absorb enough light, you can do them fairly as they are happening, and they do move. They do move with the wind and the weather currents that are happening all the way up. I don't remember where northern lights happen, but they're far. I think they're in a hemisphere, are they? But anyway, with whatever wind events are happening up there, they can move fairly fast, which is really, really cool. And you can just stand there and watch them dancing. In France, complaining is the national sport. That seems to be like the two we are inching towards. Like, people either have talking about the weather or complaining as a national sport. So I think you have to have one or the other, is what I'm hearing. That is clearly the conclusion we are getting from today's live. Ooh, I think we are getting ads. The timer went off, so we shall have a little bit of a break. Let people do that. And just chill out. They do support the stream enormously when people get ads, so it's nice to not have them miss out on any content. At least not anything specific, but I still don't know how long they run for, so maybe if we try to go on for 30 seconds or so, I hope they don't get longer ads than that. Alright, welcome back for... If you got ads, I think you should be out of the woods now. And... Norway's national sport is dancing while sitting. Interesting. That's an interesting take. Not one I've heard before. All people say that every weather has its charm. It does, though. It really does. Unless you really need to do something in a specific weather is not very conducive to it. But yeah, every weather does have a charm of its own. Even storms are super interesting if you're in a safe house and you can just sit inside and snuggle your teacup and just cuddle up on the couch and go, I'm glad I am not out there right now. I can just listen to the wind howl around the houses and watch the snow and ice fly by. And there's something very, very nice about that. If I'm honest. We don't like others to know that we are dancing, yeah. In Norway, that is true. A lot of people are a bit shy and they have this needing to appeal to everyone. It's far past my bedtime, so good night from North American Great Lakes. Good night. We are trying to do streams at different times, so it won't work for everyone, but hopefully sometimes will work for some people some of the time. And different people each time. Because I do hope that, because I know that if we try to do it at European and North American times, then it will be difficult for Oceania, Australia, and Asia to join. So I want people to have a chance to join from wherever they happen to be, and also different sleep schedules, different sleep patterns also impact when people are able to join. So I've seen some people do like 10-12 hour streams to accommodate that, and then they just sort of hit all the time zones, and I'm like, sure, I could not do that, and not even a little bit. So I will try to move things around a bit to accommodate different people, but yeah, if you're joining, and I think most of you already are in the Discord as far as I can tell, but if you aren't, there is a little channel on the Discord when we are trying to plan out the lives so that you know when they're coming, which was an alternative to scheduling them at a regularly appointed time and then me getting sick and having to cancel all the time. So I just try to put them in where it fits in the calendar at the moment. We might change that in time. Maybe we will start developing a schedule when we see what works, but at the moment at least that is how we are trying out doing things, because everything is an experiment, and we don't get good or bad results, we just get results, and results are neutral, they're just information, which is something that I really wish I could teach people and have them internalize, because so many people get so sad if they feel like they've failed, and it's like, no, you didn't fail, you just have results. Now you know what to try or don't try next time. It's good information to have. I'm looking at this pattern for tie-on pockets. I know it's comparable to the pockets they had in the past, but it feels huge. Yeah, I mean, wasn't there a story about someone carrying a whole chicken in her tie-on pockets? So it could be enormous. Yeah, I made some too, and I made them pretty big because that seems to be the name of the game. And I mean, purse or a bag you tie on your body, so I'm all for that. Having my hands free but still room for all the things, yes. During a good winter storm, you sit inside and enjoy what prep you've done, cutting firewood and making jams and stuff. Yes, exactly. It's when you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor while the weather was calmer. And you get to burn that firewood that you chopped and stacked, and the preserves that you made, thinking about summer sweetness. There is something very appealing to me about more seasonal living and not having everything available in the shop all of the time, although accommodations are important for those who can't do that. But there is an appeal to that for me. There are some things that we can't buy in the store that I have to make myself, and it's seeing the pantry get filled with them and then slowly depleted has a very charm of its own. Yeah, Victorian ones can be huge too. I love pulling a full bottle of wine out of my skirt pockets and see people's faces. Yeah. It's amazing how much we can store. And when the skirts are poofy too, you don't really see how full the pockets are, and I love it. It's amazing. Excellent contrast to today's deplorable pocket situation, and definitely worth having pockets in all of the things. I did that a few years back where I had some sundresses that didn't have pockets, and I just went through and I opened the side seams and I inserted pockets because I will have pockets. And it took a couple of hours, but then I had pockets everywhere, and I was like, yes. Now I never have to remember whether this dress has pockets or not, because I know they all have pockets, and that is exactly how I like it. I think a chicken would indeed fit in there, 35 centimeters high. They even have 40 centimeters and 30 centimeters wide. Yeah, exactly. Terrifying, but possible. Can you imagine having a discussion with someone and they just sort of end the argument with pulling a chicken out of their tie-on pockets? Like, Like, your argument is invalid. I have a chicken. Terrifying, frankly. The power of pockets. Okie dokie, join? Yeah, it's a nice supportive community, but it's also a little bit of here you can see when I'm trying to plan some lives. If that is something that is of interest to you, but I hope you enjoy the rest of the supportive community as well. We like encouraging each other to make stuff and have rests and take care of ourselves and be good to each other. It's I still feel like it's pretty new community, but I mean, it's been going for a month or two already, which is insane to me. And people really make the community what it is. You really make the community what it is. It's excellent. I'm going for the 18th century vibes, but they are no different from Victorian ones. Yeah, there are a lot of similarities. I mean, we do need pockets, don't we? And it's like, yeah, this is a sensible way to make oneself such a thing. There was an April Fool's Day video from Crow's Eye Production a few years ago playing on the things that could be pulled out of tie-on pockets. It's quite funny. I love that. I think I missed that one. I love Crow's Eye Production, but I think I missed that particular one. I need to go and find that now, I feel, after this stream and have a look, because that sounds hilarious. And I know Hazariel of her Serial Production also did a costume where she would pull like wine bottles out of wine bottles and glasses and everything out of her costume, and it was fantastic how much she could fit in her wig and everything. I loved it. Imagine what we can do with more powerful pockets. It is possible. Unfortunately, panniers aren't workable for everyday life. Says who? Is it morning rush hour? Is that the problem? Taking up too much space? That could be an interesting, I mean, people do always say that everything makes a come around in fashion, so maybe we could make them come back. I think I'll stick with regular tie-on pockets though, but I love if people want to do that. And they don't have to be big court style panniers, do they? They can be smaller panniers. They don't have to be the biggest ones. Do you think pannier pockets might make good places to lay eggs? True, true. I mean, if you have a chicken in there anyway, you gotta make it sure that it works for the rent. Alright, thanks for a nice calm start to my day. I sadly have things to tend to. Have a great day. Well, thank you. You have a great day too. I have things I shall attend, but I shall attend to them after we have finished this in about an hour's time, I think. If I can keep track of time, which we never know is never a given. Prior Attire had those pocket hoops in one of her videos, and there was still stuff from the last time they had been used. It was hilarious. Even a sandwich in the oh no. Food that gets forgotten is always a bit of a risk, isn't it? But it's fantastic as a device for carrying things. I did the Crow's Eye video production on Discord. Thank you, that will make it easy to find. And yeah, I have since learned since last time that YouTube chat definitely does not like links, so putting them in Discord is definitely the safer option. If I recall prior Attire one, there was a muffin in one. Okay, so either a sandwich or a muffin, or both. Either way, fantastic indication of how much space there are in those things. I love it. I love how the ice cubes stick around. It's the best. And it's safe to have in the couch too, it doesn't leak. It's definitely something that I enjoy bringing with me out of the house. All I can think of is pocket pet chickens being the original Tamagotchi. Maybe they were. Maybe they were. That would be hilarious and a bit bitey. Birds have sharp beaks. And how much lost stuff did Isabella find in the hoops? Yeah, that's apparently a lot. Which just goes to show how much space they have and how much potential for storing one's necessities pockets have. It's fantastic. I've known some very small cats who could probably take a nap in a tie-on pockets. Oh, that would be adorable. That would be so cute. Our cats are pretty small. They're female, so that usually helps with the size too. But I think there seem to also be, I mean, we don't know, they're just a mixed, you know, house cat type feline that we have adopted, so they don't have a particular breed, but they're both fairly dainty and small. Suris, at least it looks like Suri is going to be slightly bigger than Embla, but she's done with her growing. Embla is only 1.5 years, so she might still grow a little bit. She's in her lanky teenage years at the moment, which can be very hilarious. She forgets a bit how long her paws are and how they work, but she's getting there. She's a little bit less impulsive than she was as a kitten, but not by much. She's still super adorable and very vocal, very talkative cat. Much more talkative than Soot. She will talk when she's happy, when she wants something, when she's playing. She's very sneaky. Just all around very adorable, very fuzzy friend. Gotta be said, giant pockets are especially great when you use a wheelchair and don't have a lot of carrying options, as long as you have good side guard. Clever! Oh yeah, because a lot of the times when I see people in wheelchairs, they will usually have a backpack on the back of the chair, but I imagine like if I was, that would be quite difficult for me to reach, wouldn't it? Whereas pockets with a side guard, you can just reach them on your own. Clever! That is a very good tip. And then of course you have it accessible as well. You don't have to drag out the backpack every time. If you can reach it on your own, maybe some people can't, I'm not sure. Lanky teen cats are my favorite cat stage. They are so adorable at that stage, and she is like still clumsy, she's still a bit impulsive. It's fantastic. Nicole Rudolph has her lovely video on the ridiculousness of men's pocket historically. Yeah, there's so many fun things about pockets. Just goes to show that we want pockets. Give us the pockets. Pockets are fantastic. Alright, we've made some progress on this poor sweater that got a bit of a rough and tumble while we were moving furniture. We have a little linen diamond going on. I think that is what we ended on. That's how the patch fitted, and we did some chain stitches. Just a very simple, very visible mending, but it was a big rip anyway, so it was going to show, and then I usually just lean into it and just let it be whatever it wants to be. I think this might be enough, to be honest with you. I don't have to do more than this. It's functional. I have secured the tear on the back side so it doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, I think we can call this one functional. Also, yeah, I've really started to appreciate sizable pockets even more after starting to use a cane and having fewer hands free to carry things. That is a very good point too. I never liked, you know, the kind of purses that you have to hold, because I don't like having my hands tied up. Again, if like in winter, if you're in Tromsø and it's icy and it's slippery, I need my hands to like balance and potentially catch me if I fall. And if I'm carrying things, I don't like that. So I was always either team, you know, shoulder bag or backpack. Now I'm back to backpack again, because shoulder bags, I don't know why, but they feel heavier when I'm out and about. The weight distribution, even in a lighter thing, just feels heavier. So I had to go back to backpack because I'd get less exhausted. Hello, madam. When we are doing errands and I need to have spoons for as long as possible while we are doing things, and I can carry more things with me. Oh, baby. I love it when they just bump into you as they like fall down to snuggle. It's the most adorable. But yeah, pockets are amazing. Hi. Well, are you ordering one attention? Yeah, and with a lot of power chairs, you can't put anything in the back. That is a good point. And then where are you going to put it? Like, carrying it on your lap all the time? That seems like it would be a bit annoying. But yeah, pocket seems like a very nice option for that. The side guard of a wheelchair is also an excellent place for a bicycle type water bottle holder. I have a pocket on mine and a water bottle. That is so clever. You guys are so clever with your customization. I always need to have access to my water bottle. It's one of the reasons I always have, like, I have this really tattered, so broken backpack that comes with me everywhere, and it has, you know, water bottle, my meds, and a snack in case I need it. Well, I don't know about, although I'm trying to get rid of them because a lot of those energy bars are not nice. They're like, we found a brand that was on sale, and let's just say there's a reason they were on sale, and I've been forcing myself to get through them, and I'd like, no. not nice. But that is my kind of go bag. It's like I always need that if I need to, if I'm at mealtime and I need to get some food or get a risk of getting a migraine, so at least I have something. And water, I find water more important for me than food most of the time, unless it's been a long time. But then we usually just find a shop anyway. But yeah, and my meds, in case I have need for medication while out and about, which does happen more often than you'd think, even though I'm a big homebody. I finally just had a 10-second ad in the US. That is good to know. I didn't see my timer, but I wasn't paying attention to my screen a lot, so that is probably on me for not noticing that that was coming up. Bad streamer right there. Unskilled. The irony of women's pockets getting smaller, where we'll need to carry more and more stuff. I know, right? It's ridiculous. So we are, make more pockets. Boonk, you mean the baby? Yeah, she's lying right here being adorable. I don't think I can lean close enough to give you her purse, but she's a very nice little toasty cinnamon roll. Having a snooze. Even a very small amount of weight, if distributed unevenly like shoulder bags, is inherently unergonomic. Yeah, usually I would have two. I would have one on each side, which is still ridiculous, because just give yourself a backpack like that, so much easier. And I have this old tattered backpack with like hip straps and then crossbody straps, so that if I go to the grocery shop and I buy a lot of the things, like heavy things like vegetables and the milk or flour or sugar, like heavy things, I will use the hip straps so that I put less weight on my shoulders and more weight on my hips, and that helps so much. I do enjoy that, and it really helps to have the backpack there. But yeah, it was mostly that it felt heavier compared to wearing a backpack, even when exactly the same stuff in it, so I just couldn't justify wearing a shoulder bag, because I just dropped out of energy when we went to do errands so fast. Where did the hole go on this one? There's a hole on this one too. My orange boy is a mini battering ram when he wants attention. Yes, Suda is not a battering ram. She's very cute. She just gets very insistent. Like if I'm doing something else, she will just snuggle my hands and snuggle everything, and I get like, you can't do that if I'm like sewing something, because I'm worried that she'll hit the pins or the needles or something like that. She just gets very insistent that she gets the snuggles that she wants, and that's just, you're just gonna have to accept that. I recently got a custom bottle holder to attach to the armrest, and it's so nice. I believe that. And easier to have it all the time as well, like easily within reach and accessible. Yeah, we do love a good water bottle. Now this one is just one of those, you know how those long sleeve t-shirts will get like these tiny pinprick holes? I don't know if you can even see this. It's a very tiny hole, but it's annoying, and I was noticing because I put it on this morning, and if I'm wearing a light undershirt it shows, so we are gonna just put a little leaf over there or something, a little green leaf to cover that up. Doesn't have to be fancy. Plus the placement carrying things on your hips is much more ergonomic than on your shoulders. Yes, very much so. And you can carry a lot heavier things when you do that. So again, if I'm going for a heavy grocery shop, that is what I'm going to do. And that backpack, even though it's old and battered and ruined and I really should repair it, it has holes everywhere. It's so nice. And a lot of backpacks don't have that unless they're hiking backpacks. So I really appreciate this, having that. Because I do like, we have a shop that is like 15-20 minutes away, so it's walkable distance. I mean 15 minutes walk, not driving. So it's a nice walkable distance that I'm able to do, and it's nice to go out and have some air if I only need to pick up a few things, and then being able to bring my backpack so I don't have to carry it in my hands the whole way is very nice. I don't like holding things in my hands for long periods of time. That's what you say in favor of corsets? Yeah, I can see that. Helping, giving you some support. That's why hiking backpacks have hip straps, but they are not practical in public transport if you want to sit. Well, I usually just take them off, but this is just a very small, because hiking is so popular in Norway, like a school-style hiking backpack. It's meant for school children, which is where it came from. It was supposed to school backpack for a long time. And now I have taken it. So we have that kind of thing. Oops. And they're very, very nice. I just wish I had one that was slightly bigger, again for running errands or going grocery shopping, and a little bit less full of holes, but it does work. So I don't want to get rid of it because I'm hopeless. I don't like getting rid of stuff that technically works. But I do have a ridiculously large hiking backpack that was on sale because there was a running out of business sale, and it's a lot bigger than anyone could possibly need, but I've used it a few times when moving and it does work for that. But it's like, I think it's 100 or 120 liters, and it's ridiculously large. If you ever actually pack that to go hiking, you might die because that thing is too big. I can't do anything with it, but I have used it for public transport and for going on trips instead of a suitcase, just because if you are on trains and stuff like that, and I mean, I'm lucky that I can carry not fairly heavy, but like reasonably heavy things for a short period of time. So if you're having to swap trains and things like that, and you have to walk around on the train station and walk from a platform to another or several platforms, and you know there's a fair amount of walking involved, having the backpack on my shoulders and my hips instead of a suitcase that I have to drag up and down the stairs is very nice. And again, hands-free. I don't like pulling a suitcase behind me, so I do like it for that purpose, but I've never actually gone hiking with it because she is massive and terrifying, frankly. But in lieu of a suitcase, she does work, strangely. And I appreciate her a lot. She is not worn out because I don't use her that often, but I do appreciate her when I have it. You're a wonderful streamer and it's delightful and calmer. I'm glad you think so. We still have some technical challenges, but that you are all very accommodating in that, which I appreciate, because we are all just trying to figure it out, aren't we? Yeah, and depending on how endowed you are in the chest area, you might also already be carrying a lot on your shoulder. Yes, I am familiar with this. That has always been, and will probably always be something that I have to take into account. There was this skit where people talked about, or someone talked about wanting to be more endowed, and people who were more endowed were like, do you really? Here's all the reasons. It was hilarious. I loved it. It was on TikTok, I think, and I laughed so hard. I saved it. It's so true. There was a part about, having straps, like no dainty bralettes for you, straps so wide you could land an airport in military grade class. It was hilarious. And also, like, then you look at your own equipment and you're like, yeah, true. Very true. I've broken a couple of hip strap buckles when they've gotten stuck between bus seats. Oh no! That is very unfortunate. Yeah, I used to, if I wasn't using it, I would like strap the back. So the hip strap, I would flip it around and strap it around the backpack if I wasn't using it to avoid that kind of thing. But yeah, that can be a real problem. I've also lost a lot of, I mean, in Norway it's common to have reflective dangles, like little charms almost, that are like, they are a reflective fabric or material, and then you wear them in winter so that, you know, vehicles can see you when you're on the road. And I had a lot of those get stuck and get lost to the bus gods as well. Sadly, but they're fairly easy. That's why I always find them lying about everywhere, because people are always losing them, but they are very useful. I do appreciate them. How did this stitch work again? I want to do a leaf, I think. Is it something like this? I should have checked this stitch before I tried to do it again. We were just trying to make some sort of leaf. I could also just make a line down the middle and do a satin stitch, because I can actually remember how to do that. It's definitely a case for corsets or stays. Yeah, some people get a lot of support from them, and I'm like, you go. Use whatever makes you feel more supported. Absolutely. I'm still searching for the sweet pot of bags. FOD? 4, probably. Mrs. Laneley's shopping trip on a bike, ending with lots of stuff to carry, but also walking between shops. Wish bikes had lockable storage. Yeah, I can understand that. When we lived in a larger city and I had my e-bike and zoomed around and was gloriously luxuriant, I invested in a pair of pannier bags on sale, those weather resistance ones, and they had shoulder bags or shoulder straps so you could carry them. So that then again I would have one draped over each shoulder to even out the weight. But yeah, it's a lot to carry if you run around doing errands. It would be very nice if I could just sort of leave them on the bike and sort of come back with the goods and deposit them in a safe way and then go about and do more errands, because that would be very nice. And then I wouldn't have to worry about things being too heavy. And also, of course, when you're biking, you usually also have like your bike helmet, you have your lock, you have other heavy and sundry things, so you do end up being quite exhausted by the end of it. But it is very nice to zoom around on your bike, so I always enjoyed it. Saw a joke one time about a largely endowed person not being able to take up jogging because they'd knocked themselves out. Yeah, relatable. To be fair, very relatable. It's a reason I prefer to go for walks. Plus, when public transport is full, backpacks are a hassle to your fellow passengers, so always take them on and off, which can be that can be a hassle, and it can always be quite heavy. That was also something, especially in public transit in London, which is a lot more densely packed than in Norway. You would get ugly stares in rush hour if you didn't know the cultural appropriate thing to do, which would be to take off your backpack and place it between your legs when you were standing, so there were more room for everyone. And then it all makes sense to have just a small backpack that you have so that you don't take up more space when you have it between your legs. And that was what everyone did. That was how it was done. But I mean, when you're going to and from work, often you just need like your lunch and a water bottle and maybe a few other items. So it was generally not a problem. It's a well-known hassle of public transport users. Yes, it's like when you take the bus to the train station or the bus station or something, and you have your like big suitcase with you, and it can be a big thing. Can be a lot, definitely. Good morning, Alex. Good morning to you too. We are having a very calm, very chill time this morning, talking about anything and everything, especially public transport and the weather, as one does. Oh, when in crowded public transport, try using the backpack in front as if wearing the backpack as normal, but the front instead of the back. Easier to maneuver, balance, stand, sit protected. I could do that in Norway, that would be fine, but in London you would still get the stink eye because you are taking up more space. You were definitely always encouraged to put it between your legs when standing. But that was particularly during rush hour when the trains are really cramped. It was not a problem the rest of the time, the rest of the hours the trains were running. If there was space, it was never a problem. It was just those morning and evening hours when so many people go to and from work that would be troublesome. I take it off, more room for my fellow passengers, but front is better than you won't smack people in the face. That is also true. You need to have good spatial awareness and remember that you're wearing a backpack when you're doing that. It comes with practice and use, doesn't it? Is wearing a backpack in the front possible when you have a lot of volume in the front? I think it depends on the backpack. If the straps are long enough, it could be possible. I couldn't speak to that. I haven't had that issue be a thing. So we would have to hear from some of our more skilled community members. Not sure, busts are not an issue for me. It has not been an issue for me, but not sure if too much belly will be an issue. But straps are adjustable. Yeah, that is my sort of gut instinct too. But again, I don't actually have experience with it, so I don't think I should talk on the subject matter because it hasn't been a problem for me, at least. But I don't know if it might be for someone with more belly and more bust. Could be. I wish more people would give the stink eye in Oslo, especially on the tram. Yeah, we Norwegians are not particularly good at giving up our personal space when necessary, are we? We are very used to our space and we like to protect it to the detriment of other fellow community members sometimes. Usually in the Tokyo metro they suggest to wear them in front as anything on the floor can trip people in emergencies, and in rush hour trains you no longer see the floor. Interesting. That is very interesting to hear, because I know they have a lot of traffic and a lot of because in London you wouldn't be you would get stink eye for that because you get wider, or like you take up more space, and since the trams are so densely packed during rush hour, that could be potentially space for another person to fit in your train to get to work or your underground. So that is very interesting that they have a different recommendation, but it makes sense about the tripping hazard during an emergency, because that is absolutely something to take into account. I've worn a backpack on my front for short periods with a fairly hefty front, but wouldn't want to do it for a long walk. No, that I would definitely see. So I think this is for like short term. Then again, public transport isn't always short term, is it? Sometimes you have a fairly long time to stand before getting to your destination. So it's all dependent, isn't it? I miss public transport, to be honest with you. Currently we're so rural that there aren't a lot of public transport going on, but I actually miss it. I like sitting on buses and trains, and I don't like driving. That's why if I have to go to the shop, I will just grab my backpack and go for a walk. Don't like driving around in a heavy machine that can hurt people. It's scary. And I could always use the fresh air anyway. It's always nice when I put my shoes on and go outside. It always makes me feel nice. So it is never a waste to finally get my bum outside and go for a nice stroll. Tokyo Metro also has racks for briefcases in case you have no way to hang them on your person. That is really cool. Pardon my voice, dying apparently. Yeah, it's nice that they have those racks. I'm used to trains having them, but not always buses unless they're long distance buses. I haven't seen a lot of city buses or local buses having that kind of thing. I've only seen it on long distance travel, which maybe they could use having that on shorter distance stuff too. I hate the exposure to fragrance and noise in public transport by all said driving. I can understand, especially the fragrance. I would always get a nice pair of headphones to help with the noise, because it can be very, very noisy. Absolutely agree. But I do appreciate being able to just put my headset in and just zone out. But it's a privilege that not everyone has to be able to take public transport. So I feel quite lucky that I quite enjoy doing it. But again, like we've talked about this previously, but we got a car because it's an accommodation for a spouse, and again, different needs for different people. You can't all do the same thing. That's why we need to have different options for everyone. Yeah, the amount of perfume and deodorant, yeah. I once had a roommate who would douse himself in like half a bottle of spray deodorant in the morning, and he always went earlier than me because he did go to the gym before going to classes, and I would very nearly pass out. I had to not go in there after him and just use deodorant, like not spray, because those are horribly perfumey, in my room, and then just head out because it was intense. And it was a very small, like 2 square meter shower room that we shared, that we had a washing responsibility of. Luckily the restroom, you know, the toilet was in a different room, so that it wasn't a problem there, so you could still do your morning routine. But yeah, that was intense. It was I wish more people would not do that in public spaces where other people might need to breathe. And I'm not even the worst. I mean, it's worse for people who have it as a big migraine trigger, or have asthmas, or have many other conditions, or just struggle with strong scents in general. Like, I wish they weren't as popular as they are, to be honest with you. A lot of people agreeing with fragrances being a struggle of public spaces and public transport, which I do have to agree on that stance. It can be quite a struggle. Applying them in public school should be a criminal offense. At least paying for the loss of earnings due to asthma attacks. It can be a problem, can't it? I once worked in a place where we had the person who was the accommodation officer for a student would always be using scented candles in her office because she enjoyed them, and I always wanted to talk to her about, you know, there will be a lot of students who aren't able to talk with you because you have these scented candles. I realize that you enjoy them, but there are a lot of people who won't be able to come and ask you for accommodations because you have this going on. But it's always a balance between letting people be and not trying to be rude, but also trying to be like, have you thought about how this affects the people you are trying to serve? In a way. People here will outright smoke on the trains as long as there isn't a police officer in the car. It's terrible. Oh, that does sound terrible. I get horribly car sick if people are smoking. So I would not enjoy that in the least. But that is something, we have smoking laws here, so that is something that we've generally managed to get away with. People now mostly only smoke outside, and trains and restaurants and buses and everything is pardon, has a no smoking policy, which is really nice. It is very much appreciated. It's one of those things where it's strange to look back at time and be like, oh yeah, that was a thing that we did, wasn't it? That stem did not turn out pretty at all. This is a weird green bud thing. But I want to use up my thread. Or I have more. This is too much to use up. Yeah, okay, fine. Unless we do more leaves just for the sake of giving this leaf more friends. Public buses in Latin America are equivalent to perfume sections in department store. Oh, I feel for you. That does sound challenging to deal with. I wish I was confident enough to confront people like that. Yeah, maybe I should have. But it was like, it can be difficult in a work setting, isn't it? Like when it's not your you know, someone that reports to you, it's like you don't technically have anything to do with their job. And if I had students who came to me asking for help, it would be like you would feel you have a reason, but it's like you don't want to step on other people's toes in the workplace. It's a difficult balance, culture, whatever you want to call it. But oh, smoking in most places is illegal here too, but people still ignore the general rule. Interesting. They don't do that here, which I am very glad of. At least not that. They will still think the speed limit is just a suggestion or the minimum limit, but I think that is a problem common in a lot of places. I get the impression. People in charge of accommodations should honestly have personal experience with disability. I would agree with that. I've had some pretty bad experiences, and my accommodations aren't even that severe. Like, they don't require that much, and still you get so much pushback for no reason. And people coming up, like, the worst, what annoys me the most when you talk to people and they're denying you accommodations because they have to treat everyone equally. I want to look at them and go, what do you mean? The whole point of equity and accommodations is that you can't treat everyone equally, because when you do, people get left behind. What do you mean as the accommodations officer that you can't provide this for me because you have to treat everyone equally? Where do I even begin to tell you why that is so wrong and not a good take and not a good attitude, and just no. Scented candles always sound so yummy, but nope, they invariably make my face hurt. Yeah, that does not sound like... That sounds like a very good reason to avoid scented candles, to be honest. The only candles I enjoy are, like, sometimes we get like beeswax candle, and sometimes they have a very faint tinge, like a faint scent of honey, and I can handle those because it's like very mild, but a lot of the time they are just very, very strong. And I see this is very a good topic for many, like a hot topic, a engaging topic, because it's important for a lot of people, isn't it? I'm still a bit tired. It's a bit of a morning stream going on. Do you also have the feeling that the use of fragrances has increased? I get migraine, and I have for a lot of years, and I've been able to avoid the worst places, but I found it's getting harder. I think it depends on where you are, but yeah, I do get a similar feeling as well, that more people are using them, which I know can be so challenging for people who have health concerns relating them, it's always, people don't realize that their wish to use it denies other people access to the public space, because they just want to do what they want to do. And yeah. Recalling my sister get awful asthma attacks gives me the courage, and knowing the effects for me are delayed so I'll suffer later. Yeah, it's just why? Oh, your asthma attacks. My asthma attacks often also come delayed, and it makes many people think I cannot have problems with even tiny amounts of smoke and relatively mild fragrances. That is, yeah. But I mean, if that is what they think, then encourage them to use less perfumes and scent, and certainly less smoking. In Costa Rica, it becomes worse during rainy season because then all the bus windows are closed. Oh yeah, I can see how that would be challenging, definitely. The point of accommodation is to create a level playing field where the institution's systems are set up to be inaccessible, to be more accessible. Yeah, exactly. Like it does not make any sense to argue that you can't give this accommodation because it would be unfair to the other students. It's like, no, but the whole point of you being here is to help accommodate so that everyone can participate equally. It's just such a weird take. That's just, I wish we had come further in accommodations thinking about how and what people need, and the different things that are necessary and required. This is not turning into a pretty leaf. Oh well. It's the difference between equality and equity. With accommodations, the goal is equity, not equality. Exactly. And it makes me so sad when, you know, the accommodation officer at a university or whatever you have don't realize this. It's like, where is your training, my friend? This seems like something that should be more broadly understood by now. I had hoped we had come further, and yet here we are. I myself collect perfumes, but I always wear very mild ones if I'm going into crowded places or if it's really hot. I wish more people would do the same. Yeah, it's you can enjoy. I get that people enjoy perfumes. I mean, that they smell things that they like smelling. It's usually just the level. Like if when people are considerate, it's not, at least for me, not as big of a problem. It's when they feel like they have bathed in the stuff and you sit next to them and can't hardly breathe, that I'm like, maybe you should reconsider slightly the amount that you apply in the morning. It was one of the reasons I could never, because one of the student accommodations at the university where I went to always had like gyms and stuff, and I would try out morning classes before lectures, and I couldn't because everyone were getting ready for the day, and the wardrobe would be absolutely just covered in this haze of perfume, and I just couldn't deal. I had to do them all the later classes because at least then people wouldn't do that. It was an interesting an interesting culture shock for me as someone who don't really wear perfumes at all. Maybe occasionally I'll have some of those solid ones that you just dab behind your ear, and they're very subtle, very, very gentle, and it's just basically like a lotion with a little bit of scent in it that it's just, yeah, very, very close, and it's very mild, and it's not synthetic, so it doesn't have that like harsh chemically reaction to my senses. But going to bed, yeah, well, or be on your way. Have a good one. Take care of yourself so that you get some rest. I hope you feel a little better another time. It's weird that people think accommodating others would somehow make it more difficult to them. Isn't it just? It's like, yeah, but why? It's like everyone keeps talking about, like it's not, it doesn't mean less pie for you, it just means that other people get to have some as well. There's enough for everyone, one would think. A co-worker always smells so strongly of perfume but hates it when one points it out. That is interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to talk to such a colleague, so it would be like, yeah, but I physically cannot work with you if you are very scented, because I can't focus, my brain don't work. Even something like a hair conditioner can have a far too strong smell. Not all of them, but some smell the whole day so that it's hard to be within a 2-meter radius. That does sound challenging. There are a lot of scented things too. And then you have like the problem if something has like one shampoo, one conditioner, one body lotion, one deodorant, one perfume and hand cream, and all of them have different scents. And it just becomes this cacophony of blended scents in a very strange way, and it's just really overpowering, and it doesn't really smell specifically of anything because it's just wild. Oh, I actually saw the timer now. We are getting some ads soon, so we shall have a little bit of a break so that people don't miss out on anything. Okay. 1 second after you talked about ads, I finally got the ad break again. Interesting. Yeah, a lot of people will not get all of the ad breaks, depending on region and stuff, and I've tried to space them out a bit, so it should not be more than every 18 minutes, I think, so it should not be more than 2 to 3 breaks at most for everyone, and most people will get less than that, so that hopefully no one gets overwhelmed and it's not too disruptive. So that is... The ads are turning out to be a good reminder for me to get up and refill my water. Excellent! And now that I have found a way that I can try to keep track of them, at least if I look at my screen often enough, we can all take a break so you don't miss anything. Because that was always the goal, that you should not miss any content if you are among the people who, in a very real way, support the channel by getting ads, so it would be strange to leave you behind. So yeah, definitely, we were just snuggling the snoozing cinnamon roll here a little bit, and things are good. I would rather smell just the body odor than the combo. Personally, I would too, you know, to be real with you. It's not a big problem, but it depends, and a lot of sweating people in the same cramped up space can also be a challenge, absolutely, but especially if there's a lot of perfume. How do you take care of your voice for live stream? Has it gotten stronger over time? I don't think we do live streams quite regularly enough for it to do that. I have enjoyed singing since I was very young. I wasn't really allowed to, but I would sort of hide in my room, or it was one of the reasons why my English pronunciation is fairly decent, is that I was singing so much in English songs at that, and I kind of have had that for a while. I think the reason my voice is a bit hoarse right now is because it's the morning stream to change it up to make it available at different times for different people. So I think that is the main reason I'm still a bit hoarse and raspy, because I haven't really talked at all before I came on here to talk to you, so it isn't warmed up properly. I think that is the main reason. You're a slave to capitalism, so I'm ad-free. I do still enjoy the breaks though. Yeah, that is good. Spouse also pays for YouTube Premium, so we also avoid the ads, which is a nice luxury. Very, like, I forget that people get them because it's been so long without them, and it's very nice, but I do really appreciate those who do, so we try to. And taking a break is good anyway, isn't it? Like to do things like filling your water bottle, or going to the restroom, or just sitting in the quiet a little bit and resting. Okay. Don't think Madam really... Oh, maybe you do. Not sure if you want snuggles or if you're just snoozing. Do I come from a high controlled religious background? No. I am not religious in any way, sense or form. There's a reason I try to remember to call what people... Norway has a state religion and the church, so we grew up with, you know, it being called Christmas, although in Norway it does get called Yule, but I try to call it winter solstice because I am not religious. That is just not my jam. I'm very fond of sciencey things. There was a time when I was a young child where I struggled a bit with that, because Kristine means the Christian one, and you know, when you're a child and you're autistic, you take everyone quite literally, so I would try to be religious and not really have any way to do it, because it just didn't work. I just didn't have that kind of brain. It just doesn't work for me. Sometimes I feel like it seems nice. I have some deeply personally religious friends, and it does seem nice to have that reassurance, but that is just not the case for me. Let's see if we can Pardon you, madam. We have a little leaf. Let's see if you can actually see. A little leaf. It's not the most beautiful leaf in the world, but it is a leaf nonetheless, and that means you can go back in the wear pile. These are a lot of new to me sweaters because we have a friend who lost her mother this winter, and she's an only child, so she doesn't have people really to help her. So they have been spouse and her have been tidying out their apartment, emptying wardrobes and closets, and a lot of that fits us. So we have been inheriting a lot of clothes from that, and this kind of, you know, bittersweet feeling of, yeah, it's very good that these things are coming to good use and that we can use them, but it was also very surprising that this person passed away. So it's a kind of a reminder every time I look at it where it came from. But I still think it's nice to take care of these things, and I'm grateful for them and spouse having had the time to take care of them. Cute leaf? Yeah, very simple leaf, but I mean it works, and it does cover those tiny little holes that you get in like knitted sweaters and stuff, long sleeve t-shirts, because they always show up, and then you have to remember to, and if you don't have a matching undershirt, then it will be very visible, and that is always a bit frustrating. I don't have to want to remember that, so I try to. And it was a good time when we were sitting here doing a very chill morning stream anyway, to do some easy mending. But I was gonna darn some wool socks, but I'm not sure if I can reach my bag of supplies with little Madam snoozing on my lap. Hi. People should see you, huh? Living in a nest. You are so chill. Some people are surprised when they... Can I actually reach this? If they visit us, and they expect Madam to be as chill with them as she is with me on camera, and that just isn't going to happen because she was adopted in the beginning of the pandemic and has never really gotten used to other people. They will warm up to people who visit frequently, but they do tend to run and hide under the couch when strangers are coming, or up on the second floor, and we'll find them on top of the wardrobe when we come upstairs, or sometimes under the duvet, which is adorable. Do I not have easy access to matching thread? But I suppose this will work. Where's me darning shroom? Am I being noisy? Am I interrupting your nap? Why are you so fond of chewing on woods? I do wonder, did the chat freeze again? Because I haven't really seen you talk in a while, and I do not think that is necessarily the truth. It did. Fantastic. Why? Reload. Madam. Technology is fantastic, is it not? Cats on laps are balm for the soul. They are so warm and snuggly. It's so nice to be their trusted person, isn't it? Especially when you have careful cats. I think it's very, very sweet. I know people always talk about things to use yarn scraps for, but I tend to do so much darning that my scraps I tend to do so much darning and comparatively not enough knitting that I don't have that problem to such an extent. If I did more knitting, I'm sure it would be very different. But at the current rate of me actually making knitted items, I have absolutely no issue going through some of the things when I darn yonder socks from winter season. My kitty used to chew on my wooden dowel I used for measuring for portraits. Oh yeah, Sud is also very fond of chewing on wooden sticks and things. Like chopsticks is like free for all if you don't take care of them. So we were like, oh yeah, we should probably get her some of those matabi sticks, which are like a wood that cats like. Would help them with plaque and things like that. And Sud loves chewing all kinds of wood except matabi sticks, which are supposed to be, you know, nice for cats. And she just went, nope, no thank you. But she will chew on my broomsticks, she will chew on, the chopsticks, she will chew on knitting needles if I don't protect them carefully enough. Yeah. She will chew on things, just not what you want her to chew on. You're always worried that she's gonna get tiny slivers of wood in her mouth, but she seems fine so far. She just likes to chew on wood. Mine chews on anything that tries to eat up the hairs she's shedding a lot these days when I try to brush it out of her. Yeah, it is the season, isn't it, for shedding and hair balls and all of the things. At least mine don't usually mind the brush. Not too much anyway, but they do get a bit impatient if I go on for too long, but they don't seem to generally mind it too much. Even Embla is starting to warm up to it, but she's still young, so she's still a little bit fast, but she doesn't seem to mind too much. She kind of likes the scratchy feeling of it. Enya, our late cat, she loved getting brushed, especially on top of the head. You know how cats really like the top of the forehead. She would tolerate the rest of her body getting brushed so long as you started on, you know, her forehead, because that was just the best. That was where she wanted to get brushed. It was super scritchy for her and nice. So funny, what a little contrarian. Yeah, but I wish she would at least like the matabi sticks too. Because they're supposed to be good for her and not give her splinters in her gums and other risks, which other woods can do. Had a cat who liked to chew on my emery boards. Weirdo. Yeah, some cats, they're just... yeah, they will chew on anything. Sometimes if we're brushing our teeth and like I'm holding her, she will like chew on the bottom of the toothbrush. And I was like, madam, why? But they're so different, Sud and Embla. It's because Sud loves fruit. She loves watermelon, she loves cucumber, she likes, different kinds of melons, strawberries. She'll want to taste a lot of them, especially like sweet fruits. And we did check, you can give them a little bit as a treat once in a while. But if you try to give it to them all the time, they might develop feline diabetes, since they are meat eaters and need their protein and aren't supposed to eat too much fruit. But especially watermelon, she really loves it, so she'll always get a little bit in summer. And then Embla will come running because Sud is having a snack and she wants in, and she'll smell it and be like, what are you eating? She does not like fruit at all. Do I still sing? Yeah, all the time, but just on a hobby basis. I've never had lessons or anything like that. I just like to sing. It was one of my primary emotional regulation. I didn't realize this at the time because I was still undiagnosed, but it was one of the primary ways that I regulated my emotions as you know, especially as I got into the teenage years where hormones can run a bit rampant, and it was a very good way to get out pent-up energy. Like if you were upset or sad or angry, could just sing a corresponding song, and I would sort of sing until I had worn myself out and had sort of sang out all the emotions, and that really helped. I don't need to do that as much anymore. Now I can just sing for joy. I don't have those emotional stuff in the same way anymore, because again, like, teenage years can be rough. Teenage years can be very rough, for sure. And that would really help. And I didn't realize that what I was doing at the time was, you know, self-regulating the emotions that I didn't know how to express or get out in any other way, because I just knew that my body felt weird and I didn't really know what to do, but this felt like something I could do, so I did. And then I learned more about autism later, and I'm like, we were self-regulating. That is what was happening. That was why it felt better afterwards. That makes sense. But yeah, never professionally, or like, I used to play in a marching band, and I played like the trumpet or the cornet, depending on what was needed for the music. But I never did anything with my voice. I just enjoy singing. But I wasn't encouraged to do so. I would generally get told to be quiet so that they could actually hear the song that was on the radio. So I don't tend to do it too much in front of other people. Although I have had some very cathartic experiences as an adult when I've, you know, told this to friends thinking it was normal, like that is just what people do, and have them look horrified at you and going like, your parents did that, and be really surprised. And the first time it happened, it was super it was very emotional. And then you meet more and more people who don't shush you, and some people even enjoy that you sing and don't tell you to be quiet so that they can hear the song on the radio. They just enjoy that you sing. They enjoy that you're being joyful, and and spells is one of them. And in the beginning, I had this subconscious feeling of testing them, sort of this subconscious thing of, oh, you say that you like my singing, I will show you how wrong you are. But no, they do, and that was not everyone's experience growing up, that they would get shushed when they were singing, except unless they were unless I was in my room. I was allowed to sing in my room, which led me to believe as a child that my room was close to soundproof. But as I've become more adult, I have realized that is very much not the case, and that they just had a policy, which was at least nice, to never shush you when you were in your room. So I was allowed to sing in my room, even though they must have heard it so much when I was wearing headphones and belting my lungs out. Like, there's no way they would not have heard it. But at least they had a sort of policy of like, no, she's in her room, it's okay, she's not in the car with us driving to a destination, she is actually allowed to sing there. So that at least was something. I just woke up in Florida. It's 5 a.m. What a great way to start the day. Hello everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, try to do different time zones for different friends, so that we'd like not to have the same people get excluded every time, at least within the hours that I am awake, which granted has its limitations as well. But good morning. We have snoozy lap cats, and I am at least darning my socks. I don't know what everyone else is doing. I don't think we've had a project call, because we got straight into talking about all sorts of other things. Yes, I'm on the spectrum, and singing is such good self-soothing. Yeah, exactly. It really helps, especially when I didn't know what emotions were raging inside, because, you know, the alexithymia is a thing, not being able to identify what emotions are going on in your body. So then being able to just sing them out and get them sort of out of your body is so helpful, so that you don't go around carrying that stuff that sort of is making you feel upset and you don't know why. And it's just, yeah. So I found it really good emotional regulation to help with any time I was feeling upset for any reason, and I didn't know what or why, but it helped so much. I had a similar experience with being told to stop singing as a child. I'm so glad you found some validation as an adult. Yeah, it can be hard, but I enjoyed singing so much that it was like they couldn't really stop me. But I have learned to sing very quietly. Then I have gotten quite good at matching the tone of the person who is singing, to imitate their tone, so that like if I did it just really, really quietly and matching the tone and the pitch of the person singing, and they didn't notice too much, they would still notice. I mean, again, but children think they're being sneaky, but I know they still notice, but it wasn't as disruptive as if I was belting my lungs out. So sometimes I could get away with that for a little while, which turned out to be an interesting skill later on, that you sort of just accidentally fell into as a way of trying to get around something you weren't really supposed to do but couldn't resist doing anyway, because it brought me so much joy, and it still brings me a lot of joy. It would be fun to one day take singing lessons, just for the fun of it, just to see if we can develop the voice further, but they are costly, and that's not something we can afford at the moment. But that might be fun one day, just to see what that is like. What does a professional vocal class feel like and sound like? What do they do? Could be fun. Been thinking of taking up singing for exact same reason. Yeah, go for it. Just, you don't have to do it professionally. I just belt along to my favorite songs and have a blast. It's just nice. It's just a good time. May I ask how regulating works? My nephew does it, and I've tried to understand how it works. I currently imagine it as scratching a mental itch. How does one explain emotional self-regulation? It's something you have to work on. It's in this case, it would be that I would be, if I came home from school and I was overstimulated, maybe I might, or I have experienced something, maybe I've had an argument with someone, and I would be upset, but I couldn't really identify the emotion. I just knew that there was something going on in my body that was an emotion, and I had to get it out because it was making me restless and upset, and sort of singing until I was so exhausted that all the feelings had sort of come out through the singing was really helpful, because then I didn't have to go around with that, icky, upset feeling all the time, just sort of sitting in the background of your brain, distracting you, which, Reese says, for me, who it feels like releasing an uncomfy energy buildup. Another important side to stimming is that my attention needs something in order to not be nervous about the lack of stimuli. So it helps to not feel too much or too little, depending on the situation. Yeah, for me, it's like emotional regulation and stimming can be two different things, because I need emotional regulation if I'm experiencing something in my body that is making me uncomfortable and I need to get it out. Whereas stimming can also be very soothing, like you can like move my hand, or like I will stim also when I'm nervous, like I'm biting nails or nail bands or something, or tapping the foot, or just sort of I like to touch things. I get very tactile, so I will like rub my fingers in a repetitive motion. That is one thing a lot of people with long hair who's autistic will like play with their hair, things like that. It's a soothing repetitive motion that is just feels nice in the brain. Like, yeah, it scratches an itch. Pardon you, Madam Pudding, why are you upset? Pardon. So for me, like, emotional regulation and stimming are two different things, and both just feel nice. And it's different for everyone what works for them, what sort of emotional stimulation. It's why you can see some of the destructive things, like knocking your head against the wall, which is a lot of the image a lot of people get when they think about autistic people, if they don't know any autistic people or only know some autistic people. But it's that repetitive, like doing something over and over and over again is very soothing. It just feels nice to just do it over and over. It's one of the reasons that I like weaving, and I imagine I would like spinning and darning. It's like you are doing the repetitive, motion of sewing over and over again. I like to call it like physical meditation. Because you can just let your hands do a repetitive task while your brain is off, resting, relaxing, having a bit of a breather. I feel like they're sort of in a similar situation, but yeah, I will get more stimmy if I'm anxious and nervous and sort of need to self-soothe, need to soothe and calm myself down. Whereas singing is something I do when I am in the safety of my own home and I need to get out, like if I was visiting someone and things got weird, or I need to sort of get out an emotion, that can really help. Or sometimes recently I haven't really done a lot of singing when I'm upset, because I have a pretty good life with spouse and we have a pretty chill time. I get to stay home and work by myself a lot of the time. I don't have to overstimulate myself at the moment with, very crowded places every day that exhaust me. So sometimes I will just sing for joy and just get that out and just enjoy happy songs and then that kind of thing. I don't know if that actually answers your question. It's a bit vague, I guess, because it varies depending on who you are, what kind of things you find soothing and relaxing, and what kind of thing sort of releases that pent-up energy for you. And for me, the primary thing that released pent-up energy of like exhaustion from school, overstimulation, being just stressed, singing was a primary thing for me. I didn't have a lot of other, socially acceptable ways. Like, women are very discouraged from things like displaying angry outbursts, and like a lot of you will already know that. So that was one way that I was able to get it out. Pudding, why? Is it lunchtime? Is that why you were crying? I'm sorry when the microphone is probably picking that up. Yeah, there are many different, and I mean, each person is gonna have different reasons or different releases from different things. Change is hard, so going from home to school might call for stimming. Even joyful or exciting things can be overwhelming. Yeah, exactly. And stimming really helps with that. Like, it really helps you with the transition, helps you with if you're looking for something. If we are traveling, I stim more because, again, like, there are more overwhelming things, there are more things happening, so I will do, especially like rubbing my arms, rubbing clothing, rubbing, again, tactile things. I enjoy texture, natural fibers, blankets, like just rubbing my hands against my jeans repeatedly. It's like these weird things that it's hard for me to remember everything that I do because they are so subconscious. They just happen. When I'm stressed, I will do them and not realize, unless it gets pointed out, which I assume might be similar for a lot of other people as well. School is also very stressful and full of sensory overload for many autistic kids, definitely. And when you're undiagnosed, you don't realize that is what is going on. Like, you have no one to teach you, you have no one to help you learn those coping mechanisms. So a lot of the time you end up with bad coping mechanisms or hurtful ones. But I hope we get better with time as we know more about it. As we learn more and see more that it's just a different... Yeah, I really like, that was the first analogy that I heard, like the analogy of the different operating systems. Like, neither is less, they're just different. You just need to learn to use them slightly differently. Like, neither is more or less powerful, it's just that it's a different way of living and operating and your brain working and doing stuff. Excellent explanations all around. It's been a long time since I read up on things. I'm just sort of living life as in a way that seems to be working. It does answer your question. I'm glad it did. I'm glad it did. I have several things like that from when I have either mental or physical pent-up things that need soothing. Folding and repetitive tasks are favorites. Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of thing. It's like if your brain is all over the place, having something, I feel like doing something repetitive with my hands helps to ground me. It helps to like take everything back down to that baseline where I am most comfortable. Because usually my emotional range is like fairly flat. I'm like Not all very high, not very low. I'll like range in the middle somewhere and have small variations. And when I need to bring myself back to center line, like that is when those repetitive movements come into play, and it can be very helpful. Yeah, emotions contribute to overwhelm and sensory overwhelm, can create anxiety, etc. Definitely connected, definitely. They really, really are. Like anything can create overwhelm and emotions, especially because they're in your body, so you can't escape from them. So, and also like the public and many people and noise and all of the things. When angry, repetitive actions and receding from everything helps. When uncomfortable or anxious or itchy, I fold everything that can be folded. Yeah. See, whatever works for you. And so long as it isn't harmful to you or other people, I don't see why it should bother people that we do things that to some people might seem strange. Like, so long as it helps you and it isn't harming you or the environments or other people, go for it. No shame or judgment here. The words are hard, definitely. As you see, I'm looking for words a lot for these things that sort of just are part of who I am and what I do, and it's like, yeah, but I don't. This is just how my brain works, I guess. And who can think when the whole damn class is staring at you? Yeah. Your cat is bonking me. Maybe they notice that you want some snuggles and come to offer their services. When we don't allow children to express emotions via harmless stimming, they might end up as addicts to cope with emotions they can't express. Food, gambling, drugs, alcohol, or shopping addiction. Yeah, and they're also, like, in many ways, those things are very similar to stimming behaviors in the way that they do that repetitive again and again and again and again, like looking for the dopamine again. So it's easy to see how it could be easy to fall into those things and have, a brain that gets easily addicted to things if you don't have other ways of letting those emotions out. So again, if it's harmless, why discourage it? It doesn't harm anyone. The bullying that is such a big part of school for people on the spectrum is a huge stress, yes. And also not understanding your classmates, why they're saying the things they do, why they're treating you the way that they do, why they are like, maybe sometimes you start picking up, like if you're interested in social cues and stuff, you start picking up that there is this weird energy towards you and you don't understand why. You talk to people and they will make strange jokes and you don't get them, and it's a lot of just, even if the bullying wasn't hard enough already, trying to walk around all the time to try to figure out what people are saying. I'm sorry, madam, but my leg is well and thoroughly asleep. May I move? Hi. Did your wall disappear? I'm sorry. But yeah, just like, I remember just being constantly exhausted from all of those, again, thinking, wondering what is going on, what are people saying, what do they mean? Just all of that, analyzing your classmates and the teachers and trying to figure out what was going on. Can be very, very overwhelming. May I ask if I've gone to therapy and if you felt that it helps help? I haven't gone to a lot of therapy. I mean, I obviously had to get some help. I did get a diagnosis because, again, when I was in university, I was just so... it was the whole thing that had bothered me most of my life, that I felt like I was different, that it was things I didn't understand. It took up a lot of space, wondering, why I was broken, why I was different, why I couldn't understand what other people seem to understand innately, because, a lot of us, we will internalize it and be like, something is obviously wrong with me. So it's this very strong feeling of just being genuinely broken, which is not very helpful. And I had this fantastic psychiatrist start my assessment in Tromsø. She was amazing. And then I moved to do my graduate courses, and I was transferred to a different, and she was not good. I should have swapped. She was not interested in me at all. She would just doodle, like black out her notepad with her pen as we were talking, not really taking notes. She was super disinterested. And had I known better, had I had better boundaries at the time, I would have just asked to be transferred to a different one, but she didn't. But I find a challenge with therapy is that a lot of therapists are used to helping people realize what their problems are. Oh, I think we have ads, so we shall take a small break while I ponder upon this question a bit, at least for a few minutes. Thank you for answering. I don't feel like I answered it yet. I shall give it a moment, but so the problem that I often had was that a lot of therapists, they aren't used to highly self-aware people who know their problems and don't necessarily know how to solve them, because they are trained that if you just show them the problem, they can work on it on their own. But I have a lot of issues with being self-destructive. Like I haven't been taught to value myself. I can get into some dangerous situations because I don't have a normal fear response. I will get anxious around crowds and stuff, but I've never had a problem with roller coasters or heights or even bungee jumping, things that people will more commonly be scared of, because I just don't have a good self-preservation brain. I have been taught to devalue myself at every point, and that can be dangerous. Like, you can get into some good some dangerous self-destructive behaviors that way. It's not good, and I have no idea how to address it, because that sort of self-sacrificing thing that you're taught in a certain type of situation, in a certain type of family where your opinions are not valued. You need to get home by a certain time to make dinner or watch your brother, or like you are not valued as a person. You are not you are told what to do. You don't have, your opinions are not respected, leads to a certain kind of personality that can lend itself, again, with the naivety of autism, can lend itself easily to bad situations where you can get abused and taken advantage of and all of the things. I was quite lucky in that sense. I did get away with a fair amount of things, that I could have gotten into some bad situations, but I've struggled with therapists, because if you have a lot of self-awareness and you know your issues but you don't know how to fix them, I've found that really hard. And I have had a hard time talking to therapists, because sometimes we will just chat back and forth and we will just talk about things and you can just talk around them. At least that was the case when I was younger, but it's I haven't found a lot of good resources to deal with, a lot of autism is virtually indistinguishable from complex PTSD, because usually, being autistic, living in society, there are so many things happening to you that you just have to learn to deal with, that the symptoms are overlapping in a way that they aren't really distinguishable. A lot of the startle reflexes and the anxiety and the coping mechanisms are just so similar. And I don't know, I've found it hard to, I find it more useful, maybe this is just me, but when I first got diagnosed and was thinking about the diagnosis, I would read a lot online, read a lot about people who have autism and how they experience this, their coping mechanism. And now, of course, with more social media and online presence, we have more people talking about their experiences. We have also more experts who actually have autism, who understands it better than those autistic children that we used to associate with autism, because they were the biggest, most external expressions of things. And now we have a more deeper understanding of the people who have a bit more of an internal and quiet, introverted kind of expression of things that faces inwards. Because when I when other people might have an autistic meltdown, I go into autistic shutdown. So I just get really quiet, my brain stops working, I don't have any external, I don't tear things down, I don't throw things around, I don't yell, I don't scream, I just go like stone face, like I just stop functioning largely, and that can be dangerous if you're not in a safe environment, which I've had that happen, you know, on the underground in London, because there was just so many people, so much happening, and I just need to get home after, you know, working overtime for too long, and then you just need to get out of it, and that can be interesting. But I have found it, I read a lot about it, and I just try to understand my own brain. I just try to treat myself like a constant experiment. If that, like, how do I feel when I do this? And then you do some introspection, you think about it, you see how you feel. How can I be more productive? Okay, what if I tried these tools? What if I tried these routines? You try it out for a couple of weeks or months and see how you like it. And not in a negative way, but I just treat myself like an experiment. See what works, what makes me feel good, what makes me feel nice and productive, and like being able to produce videos for you makes me feel nice because I get to share things that I'm interested in that hopefully can help people, showing you the cool project that I wanted to show you. And to do that I need to have certain routines, so I'm just kind of always playing around with things, and then I try to see how I feel about what I have been doing. Was it better? Was it worse? Which is very, yeah, it's I'm sorry, Hone Istis, or how I should pronounce that, but I don't have a good answer for you. I haven't had good luck with therapists. They haven't been very useful for me, except for that one person in Tromsø who I had to leave because I was moving to a different city to continue my studies. And I really want to thank her because she was the first person in my life I was talking about, because when I was a young adult in my early 20s, I had grown up with this feeling of I need to be useful. This very black and white autistic, okay, you have a science-oriented mind, you should study science, you should get a science job, because then you will be useful to society and you will not be a waste of resources, which is very dangerous thinking, do not recommend. But that was the kind of brain space that I was stuck in as an early 20s something, just coming out of high school, just, you know, moving away from my family. And I was talking about this thing and, you know, talking about how I expected my life to go, and we were just talking about how I felt like I needed to be of use, this strong, just unescapable need to feel like I was being useful. And this amazing psychiatrist who was assessing me for autism looked at me straight in the eye, and I will always remember this. She just went, yeah, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it because this was such a big moment to me. And she looked at me and she said, you know that you are allowed to be happy too. And that was always something that was implied, but it was never, I had never had anyone say it to my face. And it didn't change everything overnight, because when you have these internalized truths that are beliefs that you just believe about yourself, about the world, that are really ingrained, it's not like you can just undo them on a whim, because they are really ingrained truths. Like you believe them to be true, and that has a lot to do with how you navigate the world. So it takes a long time to dismantle these things, which is something that I will always, like, working on yourself and trying to get 1% better is always worth it, because the alternative is often to either stay stuck or get 1% worse and get sicker, or like, well, sick is a bad comparison because we all have chronic struggles, but trying to be a better person for me is so worthwhile, because I don't want to be, you know, the bad person, the mean person. But that was such a big moment, and that sort of started that slow shift in my brain over time, where I allowed myself to be more creative. I allowed myself to have hobbies that weren't useful, such as martial art for self-defense or band for music, but we did archery, which was just for fun, because it didn't do any competing, and that took a long time accumulating to me, like now trying to make videos on the internet and not currently having a sciencey job despite having a sciencey education, because so long as I am not hurting anyone and paying my taxes, what's the harm? Many late diagnosed autistic women have learned to do only stealth stimming. The YouTuber Autistic Mom makes a case for relearning the big stimming too. I can understand that. I can see that some people want to do that. Sometimes there's a time and a place for stealth stimming too, though. I've talked previously about it before, but we have a black friend who is also autistic, and he talks about how a lot of the unmasking things that are encouraged in the white autistic community can't be done safely by black autistic people, because they will be in harm, they will be in danger, they might go to jail or worse if they do that in public. So it's a balance, and listening to other people as well. This is so interesting. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I am currently in the middle of this process, and it has been a lot to grasp on my own. I am glad that it can help, because I never want to be, trauma dumping on you. I always want to try to be like, here is what I learned from it, here is my takeaway, here is something we can take from this and learn and grow together. Because my intention is not for you to feel bad or to feel bad for me. That is not what I want to do. Because every experience, everything we go through, either makes us better or it teaches us something, and that is also valuable. So I try to remind myself of that we can always at least learn something from a situation. How did my family react to my diagnosis? I didn't tell them for a while. I don't really have a close relationship to my family anyway. Most of them know by now, at least like the name of the diagnosis. They know that I have autism, but we never really talk about it. On the rare occasion that we do hang out, it's just kind of, I don't think they really understand what that diagnosis means to me, how it like helps me navigate the world, and how it helped me put a word to some of my worries and have my brain calm down a bit, because I could be like, okay, this is the reason that you respond differently to things than the people in your class or whatever. It's not because you are inherently broken, it's because your brain is different, which sometimes feels like the same thing when you're in the bad brain space, but it has helped me, stop worrying about why am I seeing the world so differently to a lot of the people around me. And I could focus on learning more healthy coping mechanisms instead. That would actually work for my brain, and not trying to force coping mechanisms and habits that didn't really work for me, that didn't really do anything for me because they weren't designed with my brain in mind. So it just helped me find different things that actually worked for me and explore different things that had a higher chance of working for me, and that kind of thing. Same, sometimes I'm not sure if I'm applying for PhD studies just because everyone kept telling me I was smart as a kid, but I know I also want to knit a lot and rest, etc. Yeah, exactly. Like we are multifaceted creatures, and there's always several aspects to us, right? And we are allowed to explore those things. And as long as we aren't hurting anyone, I think people should be allowed to do what they want within, again, we have to pay our rent, we have to pay our taxes, we have to not hurt other people or do illegal things. But another thing that always was so nice is that a lot of us, millennials, get told that, oh, you're going to change the world, you're going to change the world, you're going to do this, you're going to be that, and whatever. And we can't all do that. We can't all we can't all save the world in a large, grandiose way. But we can all save the world in many small ways by being kind to our neighbors and acting locally, like with Tolkien and the Hobbit speech, and just everyday kindnesses can really change the world in a much bigger way than one sort of big famous person doing it in a big way. I think a lot of small changes are a lot more impactful than that, and something that has really helped me as I grew older is the whole thing of everyone cares about themselves a lot more than they care about you, they probably won't think that you are weird or anxious, at least not just walking around in the city, because they are so busy thinking about how they feel like they are weird and anxious and how people will what people will think about them. So a lot of the time, they don't have time to think about you and how you appear anxious because they're so worried about other people seeing them like that. And in a very liberating way, I've come to this, like, people don't really care about you, but in a good way, like asterisks in a positive thing, because that means that you are free to do a lot more things than you realized, because everyone, like, we are inherently wired to be more worried about what we are doing than worry about what others are doing, with some exceptions always, but at least that has been helpful to me, this sort of kind of nihilistic but also very positive, like, I am just one human in an enormous world of billions of humans. I don't really matter, and that is in a way very liberating, if that makes sense. Even as a white woman, I'd do the big stimming at home. Yeah, I'd be far too self-conscious to do it publicly. It could e.g. be putting on music and dancing energetically. Yeah, those are probably my favorite big stims too, and that is definitely at home, at home activities. You're getting up, madam, but I think we are getting to the end of the stream for today. My pudding has been rumbling repeatedly, and it seems to be time for some lunch, but this has been a very nice, surprisingly a bit into the depth of trying to explain how my brain works and how I think about certain things, which I haven't done in a long time, so it has been like finding the right words to try to describe it has been a bit of a challenge, but some of you seem to be getting something positive from it, which I'm glad. I'm glad to do that. I don't mind talking about these things. I don't really have any issues talking about these things, and sort of the things that have helped me calm down more in my own brain, in a way. So I hope it helps someone. Thank you. I'm not on the spectrum, but I have some of the same challenges, and not surprisingly a similar experience with therapy. So hearing someone else's experience and assessment helps me stay nuanced. Yeah, there are definitely some really good therapists out there who are better at treating those more self-aware people, and yeah, there are some really good ones, but I think like therapists are so personal, like it can take a long time to find one that really works for you, and I just try to work on myself in a way, but it depends. Some people have a lot of value from therapists, and I never want to put them down. I never want to say that they are not useful, because a lot of people, they are super, super useful. And for some people, we might need different tools. That's just the thing, right? Different tools for different things. And just because you don't need a hammer doesn't mean someone else don't. Like, just because you needed a screwdriver, someone else really needed the hammer. Like, no judgment. Everything is good. Just, yeah, so I never want to say that they are not useful, because a lot of people found them super useful. We have a lot of friends who have a lot of good therapists. I have a friend with PTSD who definitely had value from, but they had a PTSD specialized therapist as well. Like they had a therapist who specialized in their complex, in the issues that they were having specifically, which I think for some of us with more complex issues, more brain neurodivergence happening, can be useful to have someone who truly understands how your brain works and can truly talk to you, on that level, which is what that therapist in Tromsø was really able to do. Like, she could really get to the heart of what I was trying to say, but maybe wasn't quite able to. And the doctor that I have right now is the same. Like, when I'm trying to, you've heard me walking and talking all over the place, trying to explain this weird discombobulated thing, and some of you seem to understand parts of it anyway, which I'm impressed. But my doctor is the same way. Like, I can try to talk about a thing, not being able to quite find a word, and she will be like rephrasing it, and I'll be like, yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Like, she understands what it is that I'm trying to say, which is so amazing. So we love her greatly. She's an amazing doctor. We very much appreciate her. I so love your black pudding. I love her too. She's having a bath right now, being cute. She's been snoozing on my lap for a while. She is very snuggly. She loves to stay with me in the workroom, which makes me very happy. Thank you for sharing. So validating to hear so many people talk about their experiences. I'm glad. Yeah, I never want someone to feel alone, because there are a lot of us, especially with the internet. We don't have to go around feeling alone. We can have a community. We can have someone else who has similar experiences, and yeah, learn to live with our brains rather than trying to fight against them. It's just, at the end of the day, that is what I want us all to do, and different coping mechanisms for different people. What works for me might not work for you, and vice versa, and neither is less. We're just different. I completely support everyone just learning to try to be on team with their brain rather than fighting against them, because that just makes everything so hard when we are constantly fighting. Thank you also to everyone else who provided their own insight. Yeah, I love it when that happens in the chat. I feel so warm and fuzzy. It's like people are sending me messages complimenting me on having created such a nice community, but you are the community. You are the ones making the space. You are the ones making this a nice community. I just built a place for you to be, and you came in and made it a community. You are the community. You are the ones making this a nice place to be. So thank you. I'm hoping to get referred to an assessment soon. I hope so, for your sake too. It can be validating if you get it good. Yeah, it's a personal choice for everyone. It was helpful for me where I was at the time when I got the assessment. I don't know if I would need it today, but then again, I don't know who I would be if I hadn't gotten the assessment at the time, because we're always changing, and life is such a combination of many small choices accumulating into big changes. So I don't know where I would be if I hadn't done it at the time. Who knows? But it was very helpful for where I was at the time. But yeah, I think we shall call it there. I will go have some lunch. I hope you guys have an excellent rest of your day, and I wish you all the good brain energy for being friends with your brain and figuring out what works for you, whatever that looks like for you. But yeah, have an excellent rest of your day, and see you soon. Bye.